Hey, Dad, welcome back. How's everything been?
Ever been good? Busy. Was flying today, so that was good.
Good. Glad to hear that. Well, we had a really good conversation last time. We were talking about American culture, kind of
Mm,
inward,
yeah.
reflecting domestically, our society and whatnot, and its function and how it's been going lately. But the topic right now seems to really shift to foreign policy right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, as you may have noticed, we've launched into Iran with quite fury,
Yeah,
I would say.
yeah. Kind of epic.
Yeah. So, the talk of the town and the social squares is the obvious. We got one side who's saying, "Listen, this is a different atmosphere." I mentioned it last week to you. I was like, Trump seems to be really at a fork in the road where he has the opportunity to right the wrongs of the past and keep this on point, get the mission done, knock it out of the park, or sets himself up to pull what every other previous administration has done. And so that's the
Mm.
arguing point right now, that I've been engaging with, based off of
Well,
our evidence
okay.
with Venezuela. Like Venezuela,
Hmm.
we said no, that's it. Now, to be fair, Venezuela is not Iran, or Iran is not Venezuela. That
Thank
is a
God.
much more complicated factor. So, just so everyone can know, Dad here likes to really be finding the videos of the guys with GoPros on the ground, what the locals are talking about. You've been
Yeah,
doing that with Ukraine and Russia. So tell me,
yeah,
have you seen anything lately? What's the news on the ground from
yeah.
what you've seen?
Well, it's all translated, and I'm praying all the translations are correct.
Sure.
And they weren't translated by the BBC, so that's good. Um, because they have really messed up again. But Iran's a big country, so there's different areas going through their things, and it's not simplistic, like the media wants to put it, and that media narrative gets thrown into the social media out. It makes it very simplistic and binary. You're either for or against it. Well, I hate the idea that people are killing people like Russia and Ukraine,
Right.
and now in Iran and in other places we had a drug interdiction in Ecuador, people killing people. So I'm not happy about that. It doesn't mean I don't understand it.
Sure.
You can understand. This is where what's lost in dialogue, especially on social media. If you understand something, then you're automatically for it, which is lunacy. You can get some guy's nut job idea. Doesn't mean you're for the execution of that idea. You can just understand it. I see where that person's coming from. Um, and unfortunately, social media doesn't allow us to engage in real dialogue and understand the other position, and that's because the other position is just vomiting nonsense from whatever they get it from. They don't sit back themselves and analyze themselves and use their own brain to say, hey, does this make sense? So, just like our country, the culture in Boston is different than New Orleans versus Phoenix versus Duluth, Minnesota. I mean, we're a large country, and Iran is a
Yeah.
large country, and it has different ethnicities and cultures and religions and city and country. And so what's going on there is a lot of confusion. People don't know what to expect. They don't know if boots are coming on the ground. They don't know if Marines are coming. They don't know a lot. And I think I hinted this on the previous talk, where there seems to be a failure of an actual plan to transition. It appears that way. I'm not privy to anything behind it. closed curtains and doors and the smoky filled rooms, as they say. But
Right.
there's a lot of confusion in Iran right now. There's the people who are happy and elated that Khomeini is gone, understanding he's killed just in the last couple of months several tens of thousands of people or wounded. Over, however, he's done a lot worse over the last few decades. So they feel that relief, but the question is, what now? Well,
Right.
it's a disarmed population, so they don't have weapons of their own to go to the police station or to local city, county government, state government, provincial government, and say, "Hey, we're tired of this," and have a good old fashioned revolution. Um, so the ground game is appears to be lacking. Whether that's intentional or not, I don't know. I would like to have seen one. However, if
You're speaking
but
from our end.
yeah, from our end, Trump's goal is okay. We've taken the boot off your neck. You got to get up off the floor and go do it. And so I get that. And if we're going to do something like this, yeah, the locals have got to get in the game. But it doesn't appear that they really know what that game looks like because it's a life and death game. And you got to choose wisely. And those choices are different depending where you are in the country. So a lot of the
Right.
military is in the capital, major air bases, army bases, and along the coast. Those military batteries that were attacking ships and stuff like that. So not much going on there with the locals because they're surrounded by the Republican Guard types. But around the country, in the countryside, yeah, there's a lot of people happy. They're out in the streets. They're relaxed now, but the real mechanisms of governing, the levers and gears of government, are mainly in the capitals and the large cities, and that's still a control of the Republican Guard, and that needs to change if the Iranian people want to restore either their previous style of government or create a new one. It's up to them. I would like to see something better. But like you said in the introduction here, it can go either way. This could blow up. There's no guarantees. Um, it could
Well,
work. I have faith in the military. I'm not. I know the military is going to kill people and break things. That's what they do, and they're going to do
right.
very good. But you can win battles, but you got to win the war,
Well, I mean,
and you got to plant the flag somewhere.
who who does the US look to in this point then? Because I've tried to get a little bit of familiar with Iran's history. I know Khomeini came in what, 79 if I'm not mistaken.
The
Um
Ayatollah did the original
yeah,
one, yeah.
yeah, he came in 79 and whatnot. And when you've had such a stranglehold the way that he's had, it's almost like who would have you in that region internally uh would have been networking with to even start something like that. And I know that sounds silly because with our, like you said, with our government, another tool of our government is just that, being able to get on the inside with people. But it's almost like with this particular regime, it's like who would you have found in this atmosphere? I mean, the previous leaders, remind me his name before Khomeini, the Ayatollah came in,
Was
pre
Shah.
79. Yeah, well, his son is
Was the
like,
Shah
"Well,
of Iran.
I'm gonna come in," and he hasn't lived there, to my
Nope.
knowledge, correct? So it's like, okay, well, you got
Nope.
one guy being vocal with no backing, as of right now that I've seen, and he hasn't lived there. So you're right, I haven't seen anything on what I watch, but it, I seem a little confused as to in this particular scenario, how would you have galvanized any sort of leadership?
Well, two things. First of all, that same confusion is on the ground.
Right.
Yeah, he's gone. Ding dong, the Wicked Witch is dead. Now what? Uh, who really is for the Iranian people, and I would have expected the CIA, NSA, Mossad to have some candidates, some political parties in what's called a shadow government outside of Iran ready to come in. I would have expected that. That doesn't appear to be happening. Now, the Shah, to his credit, has been out there cheerleading it, but you got to put a ground game together. You got to get people on the ground communicating. Here's our ideas. Here's the people. Here's what a vision. What we see our country 6 months, 2 years, 5 years from now.
Right.
I don't see that. They just wanted the Ayatollah gone. Well, great, he's gone, and the second, third in line, uh, is there, and so it's confusion. It's confusing, and I'm not sure what that ground game looks like now. Why don't they have a ground game, or at least a visible one? They may have one,
Right. We're
but
not
I think
privy
the
to that.
timing is off because all of a sudden they said, well, Israel and the states said, well, we found ourselves with an opportunity to strike and knock out, 50 to 100 of the leadership, and we won't get that opportunity again. So, okay, I get that. If you're going to cut off the head of the snake and the head appears, okay, but now what? So, I don't know. The In general, the people are elated, and the Iranians around the world are elated. But I just don't see, other than the Kurds. Now, the Kurds are a wild card because the Kurds are a minority in like four countries: Syria, Turkey, Iraq, and Iran.
I was hearing that
So
they
when
were
Europe divided up
mobilized.
the Middle East, they divided up and said Drew, and it had nothing to do with ethnicities and cultures. And the
Right.
Kurds got literally scattered to the four winds of the Middle East. And so they're ethnic minorities, and they're kind of like the redheaded stepchildren of Middle Eastern people.
Right.
Middle, and so there you are. Well, nobody wants the Kurds doing what they're doing,
Sure.
but nature abhors a vacuum. And if they've got people with some semblance of a uniform and a few rifles, by God, they're going to show up
Right.
because you're not going to say no to these people. So this now the gamesmanship and the geopolitics really takes hold because if they see this type of Kurd come in, well, another country's going to back out their support.
Ah. Eh, right.
But if this kind of Kurd comes across the border and attacks and take, well, now this one is back in the support and the other one is not. So this is complicated. It's a big country with a lot of complications, and so think of Florida, 40 million people and 1,000-mile coastline, and you want to take it over, you want to start government from scratch. That's complicated. I mean, that's tough. So it's it's not binary. It's not a great
Right.
decision or a poor decision. It was a decision, and now we got to live with the ramifications.
Sure.
That's
Yeah.
what's
And that's obviously I hear a lot of it, it's people are sitting there screaming about that very thing, where's the US's plan? Trump doesn't have a plan. Look at this. He's just wilding out. And I'm like, no, that's not necessarily true. I've
no.
been following the dominoes as they kind of fall. And uh, probably next time I could look it up here, but I don't want to take too much time doing that.
All right.
There was a podcast that I was watching where opinion, of course, but this lady was saying, well, this seems to be well in advance planning to a certain extent. And she said it started, and it's not about Iran. Let me start by that. She didn't put the emphasis on
Correct.
Iran. Iran's a part of it, but it's not about Iran.
Correct.
She said when Trump took office, the first thing that was crucial to take a look at was what he and how he challenged the authority of the Panama Canal.
Correct.
And then just follow the next domino, the next domino, the next domino. This has nothing to do with Iran. It has everything to do with our two biggest adversaries, China and Russia.
Correct.
Um, so, I reflected back on a lot of material with that, and I said, well, yeah, because if you just look behind the curtain on each domino, it's China and or Russia who has a direct or indirect relationship to said event. And I said, okay, this is starting to make sense.
Right.
Do you feel like that's not being vocalized, or are the people missing that?
Uh,
Or both? I kind of think both,
well,
but
it is not Iran. It's Iran and China. That's the nugget right there. So anybody saying, "Well, this is about Iran, about oil, about American wants Iranian oil," it's much deeper, much broader than that. It's about um, pulling the legs out of the Chinese. So as you astutely started with Panama, Venezuela, Panama, we cut the Chinese out of the canal. They're gone. The Supreme Court just recently ruled, said, "Yep, we have a treaty with the state. Sorry, China, you're out of here." So that'll has already been started, and the Chinese companies are going to get parted out, and we'll be taking over that on the port authorities. It's also about Venezuela because Venezuela was also supporting China with cheap oil and all that, and giving trading narco and helping the drug trade for Venezuela. So there was definitely a pro quo, which they have records on, and that's why there was arrest warrants for this. So the question then becomes, well, what's next? Well, Cuba is actually next. I believe Cuba is next, but I think an opportunity arose in Iran. The war plans are already there, and I don't know if you've ever engaged with military planners and things like that. But when you go to war colleges and you go to DoD, there's literally war plans on the shelf. Now they're in laptops and secure sites and hard drives and stuff. I war gamed. I was part of a exercise out of Rota, Spain, that we war
right,
gamed the Iraqi War, 1983. So there's a lot of exercises out there that are forward thinking. So the war plans have pulled out and say, hey, the opportunity showed up. Now we knew they were showing up. We knew it was coming because they moved two battle groups and mentioned a third battle group on the Navy side. And Air Force were putting the very expensive B-1, B-2 bomber force in the Eastern Hemisphere. So we knew something could be up and the
right,
assets were going to be there. The only question, what's going to pull the trigger? You don't move that kind of battle group or that amount of force unless you're preparing for a very big event. So the idea of this is a prize is sheer ignorance, naivety, whatever word you want to choose. Um, it was going to happen. I think it appears, maybe wrong here, but it just appears that they got a little ahead of themselves because an opportunity arose. And he's been true. Orange guy's been true to his word. I'm going to give you 2 weeks. Well, 13 days and 12 hours later, here it comes.
Yeah,
So,
have you ever had an administration actually back up a red line they they drew? These I'm only
certainly
31.
not in the last 20 years. I
I'm
remember
only
George Bush,
31,
no new
and I haven't heard
taxes.
it. Say again?
I remember George Herbert Walker Bush, no new taxes, and he came
Right.
up with a tax increase. Um, yeah, uh, he's been consistent. Now, you like the policy, dislike the policy, let's debate all that. But at least he's been consistent. Hey, I got something going. I'll give you a break. I got some nice talking going on. Let's talk. Um, but if you look at old videos online and interviews, he's disliked.
1980.
Yeah, they go back to the beginning. And I remember 79 and 80. People were upset that we did not go in and teach these folks a lesson. Now, it's argued that, well, we're the ones who put them in. We shouldn't have been there. We could have been there. We got rid of the original prime minister guy 10 years earlier. Yeah, all that. And that's all deep state stuff. That's all statecraft by the deep state. They've put us into a situation. The English deep state put the Middle East into the situation that they're never haven't recovered for the last 100 years.
Right.
So, when you make a policy mistake, the reverberations can last a day or it can last a lifetime. And was this one? I don't know. We got to see. But I everything's all about bringing back the soldiers, sailors, airmen, marines back to the Western Hemisphere. You European, you Asians, go kill yourself, do whatever you want to do. As long as we have our trade, we have the things that we can do. We're just going to sit out here in the Western Hemisphere. Well, to do that, you can't live. You can't. America, as the big dog, cannot leave the Middle East with the Republican Guard in charge of Iran. you
Right.
you we cannot leave the Middle East in that scenario. We have to leave it in some sort of less diabolical situation where they're actively looking to destroy Israel and the United States of America. That needs to be neutered. And if he gets that done, then boom. What are we in the Middle East for? That
Exactly.
rollback of the military starts to happen unless they come up with another boogeyman, which is what Europeans did with Putin.
Right. And
Could have had, yeah.
it drives me batty dealing with these liberals. I'm gonna keep it nice for that because it's like you just said something key there. Rolling back of the military. Well, a liberal will tell you that we spend too much on our military. We put too much here because us Republicans just want to blah blah blah. And to an extent, they got a point because Rhino Republicans, you have war hawks, and there are Democrat war hawks, but Republicans have been labeled the war hawk party from my perspective since I've been engaged with this stuff politically. So, but you said something key there. It's like, well, why aren't we paying attention to what the potential is down the road? You want us to stop spending so much money on defense. You want us to roll back and not be so entangled. Well, why can't we do what's necessary to untangle that pretzel we've built for the last 50 years and come on back? But
All right, let
that's what drives me nuts, Dad, is because I think we're failing, maybe not so
yeah.
much at our level, but definitely the next guy up in leadership in our viewpoints. I'm not talking Republican here. I'm just talking about our conservative viewpoint. That just the next guy up in our leadership's not talking like that. Why? That drives me nuts.
Uh yeah, it's very weak, and I'll tell you why. It's so ingrained in our system. It's hard to break first principles. It is so hard. But understand, in American politics, the liberals want American soldiers and the DoD much smaller. They'd want it their way. It has to happen by America losing. It has to happen that the terms are imposed on us. It has to happen out of weakness. And what the Orange Man is doing is saying, no, we're going to kick butt, take names, settle these problems around the world. You guys are good. You guys are good. You guys are good. You idiots. Stop that stuff. Okay, we're good. And now he and the Republicans, therefore, by extension, get to say, okay, we're rolling back because we're victorious. The opponents wanted to roll back because we got our butts kicked.
Right.
The chickens have come home to roost. I heard that incessantly in 9/11. We got what we deserve. We've been fomenting trouble all over the world. Okay, yeah, the United States government is not innocent in any of this stuff. I go back to what I told you. Okay, you don't like what the big dog is doing? Okay, you can not do nothing about that and deal with it, or you can poke that big dog. But sooner or later, the big dog's going to take a bite out of you. And that's the reality that the anti Trumpers don't get. They don't want to get. They don't look at it that way. They don't look at the strategy, the long term strategy. They're very today. They cannot give him a victory in anything.
Right.
And there's a lot of Democrats now going to their Democrat parties going, hey, how could you not be for this? Or this or that, or other things. He's stopping drugs entering our country. What is the problem? Well, he's shooting boats up. Fishermen. Well, we know they're not fishermen, and any unflagged boat in international waters is by law a pirate.
Right. Right.
So it's not about making sense. See, you're trying to make sense of people not looking at it about sense. It's about winning their way. They have a worldview that's different from your worldview. I'm not gonna say who's right or wrong. I'm just saying it's different. And so they value things totally different. So when we get punched in the nose, they celebrate. Charlie Kirk died.
Yeah.
Two people protesting ICE died. They want to celebrate them.
I'm sorry, but the they celebrated George Floyd. Now,
Yeah,
whether
yeah.
you like, listen, that was a chaotic situation, but I'm sorry. What part of that man needed celebration? What
It,
you
it wasn't
idol?
about that.
Yeah,
He
but they
didn't need
idol.
celebration. They found a victim to
Right.
celebrate and show their political cause. And same thing, they foment trouble, and when somebody gets in trouble or worse, gets killed, and not Stalin, but the other guy, these are useful idiots,
Yeah.
and people
Um.
don't want to think. And
Yeah.
so
It's like
you're trying to rationalize this. Help me make sense. Well, I can't help you there because there is
thank.
a very large contingent. Your old man can't solve that one. There is a very large portion of this country that has always hated this country because we became the big dog. I get it. I would like all our soldiers, sailors, and airmen, marines come home. I would, if I could have that magic wand, I'd wave it tomorrow. First thing in the morning, get everybody home. That's not how the real world works. All right, you want to give up the big dog title? Who's it going to be?
Ex-
Zimbabwe?
ex-
China? Who? Russia? They, they can't, they're not a big dog in their own country. I mean, China? We want the Chinese? Well, the Chinese yuan is really a great currency. You really? You want their legal system backing up the purchase and selling of international bonds? Well, good luck.
and that's
You know.
crazy, Dad. I listen. I think that. Oh, sorry, had technical difficulties here.
All
I'm
right.
gonna
All
roll with
right.
this while we fix this. But
All right.
the thing that I wanted to ask you there was
Yeah.
when I was growing up through school, right?
Yeah.
Um and trying to look back at it, it almost seemed relatively new, but they kept doing this what do you call it? Um just this nonstop dialogue of like, Russia, or I'm sorry, China is like the next. We're all going to be speaking Chinese in 20, 30 years. Like when I'm in elementary school, late elementary school, middle school, like, and you study history and stuff like that, it was weird. It was like sprinkled in there, not as if it was some great, great mastermind thing up front in your face, but like they just kept going on with that messaging. Maybe it was a mastermind thing of just propaganda. I don't know. But that's what I experienced, and I guarantee you, people my age would they'd be lying to you if they said that they didn't hear that. And that's all we kept hearing throughout school as we were growing up. And then I even
Yeah.
started seeing it like discussed in the political news environment. It's just crazy looking back at that.
Yeah. We were supposed to bring the Chinese into the first world by by sending our jobs to them and expecting the Communist Party to collapse through capitalism. And they just became communist mob bosses. That's all they are, is mob bosses. There's no different from Chairman Ping from Tony Soprano. There's no difference here. Um, and so what had happened then is two major events happened.
Right.
First, they got most favorite trade um, status, which allowed them into all these mechanisms and trade stuff for getting them access to capital and the banking systems for transactions, because that was a huge part they didn't have access to. And so they were in a different tariff system. And so our businessmen sold American labor out by transferring the jobs out and making sure they got most favored trade uh, status,
Right.
trading partner status. And this was supposed to be um, the big thing. And this was uniting both at the time, Republicans and Democrats, because it was Nixon, the Republican, that reached out to China. So you got to support this, because Tricky Dick was the guy who came up with this. And then it's also with the Democrats, because we were becoming then a service industry, and they saw that as opportunities for more union labor and all that. They didn't appreciate that utter destruction of the middle class and the union jobs in this country when they did that. So um, again, when if you have Republicans and Democrats agreeing on something, you better look out. Something's we're
Right.
probably getting screwed. I mean, just look at where they voted against the fund that pays off their fines when they get trouble for their sexual offenses. I
Yeah,
mean,
I saw that.
so they this group called Congress is not up to snuff. They're not up to it, and now they got an orange guy in the White House who is arguably pro con. Go ahead, but he's up to a policy and exacting his policy. Okay. Um, these folks are not. They're about maintaining the status quo, as you saw with Doge and USAID and the whole finance and money laundering, the Minnesota and all that. It's the political machine is a money making machine for the people who get into the politics. And so it's not about serving you or me and protecting this country. It's, oh yeah, we'll send a few $1 billion over here and make them happy. So here we are. It doesn't make sense because it doesn't make sense. And
Yeah.
when you promote something that doesn't, it you kind of like, okay, what? All right. You can't put your thumb on it. And that's how I've said it for a couple decades. The American people know something's not right. They just can't put their thumb on it. And the people, I've told you, why you moved to West Virginia? Because when the people do figure it out and put their thumb on it, I'm going to be in the woods.
Yeah, you've said that quite a bit. So
Okay. I don't want to even be near a city when the people figure it out. Because when the American people say, all right, we've had enough, it's going to get ugly. And we're not there yet.
yeah, and it seems to be that way too. And I don't know if it's just the Senate Majority Leader himself, because I've heard they got the votes, but the House passed the Save Act,
Yeah.
and Thune is sitting on it. And I'm
Yeah.
so, like, to your point about them, if they're agreeing on something, I don't know if it's a little more localized with him specifically, or what the case is, but the people, as far as maybe somewhat putting their thumb on this, 80% of them have their thumb on it when it comes to vote. Like, they're like, listen, we're tired of this back and forth crap that we've had over the past eight years, the past 2, 3
Yeah.
presidential cycles. We want this change. And so here we have this bill that's just sitting in the Senate right now, not even being brought to the floor. Um, I don't know. That just came to mind when you said, when they start behaving in lockstep with each other, because while it was in the House, all you heard Democrats saying, this is racist. This is gonna
Yeah.
stop the disabled people and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I haven't visually seen Trump's Truth Social, so I say this most likely 95% sure it's true. I've seen other people share this, that Trump said, "I'm not signing another bill till we bring this to the floor and we vote
Yeah,
on
that's
it."
what I understood. I was busy today, but I saw that on my news ticker. Yeah, he's got the bully pulpit, so and he's not afraid of grabbing you by the short hairs in public. So, um, hey, again, you may disagree with the policy, but he's trying to get something done. He's trying to get implemented his program. Okay, well, let's argue about the program, fine, but at least he's doing something, and that's what's endearing him to a lot of people. It's that he's trying, but it really puts a spotlight on the people that not, like Senator Thune and others. Because if this is a no brainer in any rational world, this should have been done and been a no brainer.
Right.
However, you don't become that in that position by accident. Typically, the Senate leader is the biggest money gatherer for the political party. The donors own you. You
Right.
don't you don't represent your state or anything like that. That's horse hockey.
Well, we will definitely touch more on that. I had a question for you, going back to
Sure.
foreign policy more, because you mentioned this the last time about being a service member. You've told me this before we ever started recording, and I think you told me when we were recording, is that when you sign up, you got a job to do, and that job is whatever Uncle Sam tells you to do.
Right.
It's a particular type of job like no other. You
Hmm.
go and do it. And so a lot of what I've been hearing lately with the arguing points right now is, and I want to say this, hopefully people listening will understand where I'm coming from, because just so as a reminder, I served, dad, you served. Um we sign up and I think everyone in the service most of the time understands what we did sign up for, what that entails. And
Yeah.
the thing that kind of bothers me a little bit is is people not in the service, and I get where their heart is. I really do, because they don't, like you just said, if we can bring everyone back, if we can stop the killing, I agree with that. You agree with that. A lot of people
Yeah,
agree with that. But
yeah.
again, this is not how the real world functions.
Oh,
So there when I hear people outside the service, they just keep wanting to just say, but our service members are, they don't want to do this, or they shouldn't be in this position. And it's like, one, that's not helping. And two, that's aggravating
no.
because they do know what they want. A funny story, I was actually talking to a friend of mine. I got to get a hold of some of the Patriot guys. So, just for everyone knows, I worked on the Patriot system that you are hearing in the news right now.
Yeah.
I personally never saw a live fire. Now, two things have crossed my mind in my service with that statement. One, I feel slightly bummed because you train all the time for that live fire, and never saw my systems go.
Never
So
fired in anger.
yeah, so but the other side is, by the grace of God, I never had to be put in that position.
Amen. That's right.
So I was talking to a friend of mine. He's infantry. They're not being utilized right now. But I was like, hey man, just out of curiosity, what are you guys thinking? I'm sitting here on the social medias trying to defend you guys, but I haven't even spoken to anyone yet. Like, what are your thoughts on this?
It's a great
And
question.
he's like, dude, we're all waiting for the call, man. We want to
Yeah,
go.
they're ready.
Like, exactly. And
We're locked and loaded.
again, are there people who are like, listen, like, I don't want to go for some stupid nonsense? Because I feel like they have some valid points to that. I think there's a lot of stupidity that's going on policy wise in the Middle East now, and even when I was
Yeah,
over there. But
yeah.
to kind of get your thought on this, I just speaking with him and then hearing a couple of his friends come chime in, and they're like, "Yeah, we're lock ready. We want to go. We want to go do our job now." Um, I won't say the little more explicit stuff that they were saying, but just know that they were ready. So, what are
Yeah,
your
yeah.
thoughts about hearing that with today's service members? And then what about you when you had first joined and you were wondering, when is the call happening? And then when you finally got calls, what was your mindset as a service member?
Wow. Um, there's nothing more exciting for a 20-year-old to be tested in the real world, right? And okay, so I was an airman, flying crew chief, and so the idea I was flying 150 soldiers in the back going into some potential action was um, very I'm trying to think of the right word. It awakens you to the world. It awakens you to reality. This is no joke. Okay, we could argue policy, but once the old man in the White House says you're going, then all the focus is about doing your job, getting bombs on a target, getting personnel on a target, and letting them execute as an airman. My job was to get soldiers and Marines into an area where they can make the enemy die for their country. So the seriousness was hyper elevated. And of course, you're being tested. Can I do the job? I want to do the job right. On time takeoffs. We're going to hit the target. All that stuff as an airman. It is extremely sobering as well, for the folks who've never been in that situation. When you realize, when I pick these boys back up, they may be shy a few. And the first time I did that, was the Kobe Towers. It was the first time I brought wounded Marines home on a
Mm,
medevac, because the airplane can be configured many different ways, and you could be a medevac, it could be a flying hospital. So, um, then it becomes personal
right.
because some of the flights that came from Europe, I'm bringing back coffins.
Right.
Did I take that soldier Marine over there? Was I'm the one? Did I bring him just to bring him back in a box? So it's very sobering. Um, a lieutenant general said it best. Our mission in the Air Force is to bring all our 19-year-old soldiers and Marines home. That's our goal. If we do our job right, we're bringing them all home. But that's not reality. That's our hope. That's our prayer. That's our wish. Um, so the seriousness, the sobriety, it was extreme, um, and the tension, because this is real. You practice, you practice, you practice, you practice, you practice. Now, I was unique working in logistics and flying crew chief on cargo planes. Our our job was our job, peacetime or
Right.
not. We were always delivering soldiers, personnel, ballpoint pens, bombs, you know, whatever you wanted and where you wanted, missiles, rockets, no smoking. Um, so, we did our job every day. And yet when I would go to a base with maybe TAC, some fighters and stuff, and I would talk to the TAC boys, Tactical Air Command back then, um, fighters, fighter bombers. Now you're talking, um, they know that they're going to be sending planes into a hot zone or something like that, or the potential of it. So it becomes real. And for us, in logistics, it was real every day, until you saw the bodies in the back, and you're like, okay, this is the real deal. So my last missions was ramping up for the Panama invasion, and I was going back and forth to Panama, and from picking up Marines out of Havelock, Cherry Point, North Carolina, going to Panama City, Panama, knowing, this is going to get hot. Noriega crossed the line. Bush is going to make him pay. You just see the writing on the wall. I don't have a crystal ball. It's just there. You see it. You either read it or you don't.
Sure.
And I'm looking at these Marines, you know, 18, 19, 20-year-old Marines, and I'm a grizzled old veteran at 25, 26 years old. um, and I was praying for him. That's God's honest truth. Just come home. So I told your cousin, Javier, just come home. Take care, take care of your Marines and come home. I don't care what you got to do, and so that sobriety, it really hits you.
I remember
Um,
that same message you gave me. I was when I had started going overseas, my first duty station, Korea, and then I came back to Fort Hood and I went to Kuwait. And I think you really enforced it when I went to Kuwait. Now, just for everyone's understanding, being Patriot, your defensive MOS, you're playing defense like you see in the live, news right now.
yeah,
But I remember that message you said specifically. You said when the fecal matter hits the fan, you come home. We'll deal with the legal matters later. And I
kill them
said,
all. I don't care. I'll work two jobs, pay the lawyers, but come home. These people are in a different century, man. It's a different culture. The idea we've even been importing this into our country is bizarro. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. It just doesn't.
right.
But yeah, that's the reality of it, and it's final. I've had to knock on a parent's door once.
You told me.
Ain't nothing like it.
You told me specifically there was nothing harder than that.
Nope.
Well,
I've done nothing harder than.
that's what I want to touch on is that we have a difficult subject right now
Yep.
that a lot of people are throwing around in, Trump supporter faces. Is I think right now we have 7 confirmed KIAs, American
Yep.
service members right now.
Yeah.
And yeah, that kind of just ties back to um the kind of the questions that I was pointing at just a few minutes ago with people just saying, "Well, why we shouldn't be doing this. We're putting our service members um in these kind of conditions." And nothing against to the parents. I think I would hope all of the parents were supportive of their child um going into the service. I am
Yep.
somebody that you've taught me that it's a noble duty, service to your
Yep.
nation.
Hmm.
Um, so we grieve with them, we feel for
Yep.
them, and we understand where they're
Yep.
coming from. So knowing
Yes, we
that,
do.
and then just taking that to a side for a second, to the conversation where people are just knacking at it, just gnawing at that ad nauseum, to the point where it's like, again, you're not understanding what it's like, and that's kind of no fault to them. But my friends were saying it. We want to go. We want to go over there. I just told
Well,
you guys a few minutes ago. I wanted to see life. I wanted to see the fruits of my labor. That sometimes I work 20,
yeah.
30 hours for just training exercises.
Yeah. And as a
And
father, that's the last thing I wanted you to see, right?
of course, but here's what I'm hoping to get maybe with that. That's
Yeah.
exactly where I wanted to lead, Dad.
Yeah.
Is not all parents are the same and everyone would
No.
grieve differently. But knowing what you would have told me, all the things that you've instructed me when I went to basic, when I left to Korea, when I left to Kuwait, knowing all that, would you have been what's the correct way to ask this question? Would you have been, I guess, maybe going blitzkrieg bananas, wagging your finger, screaming and hollering as to why I was over there or doing any particular task? I'm just trying to understand of where maybe, and I know that's hard because you thankfully were never put in that position with me going into the service there, but you gave me instructions, and I'm hoping to see if you would have said or feel like you would have said the same things if that scenario would have happened. If Do you get where I'm getting at with this?
Yeah. So it's a tremendous dichotomy. Okay. So we practice for war and we want to show our mettle and that we can do the job that the taxpayer paid us to do. Eh, But it's serious business. There's no take backsies. There's no spawn, respawn, restart, reboot. Right.
Right.
This is real life. So there's that reality, and the reality is that I am so proud of you and your brothers when they served. Julio's Gulf War, Manny Navy, Javier Marines, you in the Army, and but you want it to make sense. And so I'm looking at 10, 20, 30 years down the road. I'm not looking at tomorrow. So the war is going to be fought.
Right.
The question is it on our time and our terms or theirs?
They're
Okay?
not distinguishing
This
that right now.
war it this war is coming and has been coming for a long time. Okay? And it's going to come here too. It's already starting here in America. It's hitting the streets. This war of the clash of these two civilizations is happening. It's happened in several countries in Europe, and it's happening now here. Um, so it's coming. And so the question is, when do we fight it and how do we fight it? Well, um, the sooner the better. Let's get it over with. This was an old Thomas Paine who wrote Common Sense, a Revolutionary War. If war comes, let it be now, so that my children may be free.
Sure.
Okay. So, but now I got the gray hair, right?
Mine are spawning. Mine are spawning. Don't worry.
And so I think back really to Pop and Grandma, the grandpa and grandma, and how they felt because they watched the news and they saw. Some of it they didn't understand. This sounds crazy. Why would we be involved in this? Why would we? And I would tell them the owners of the U.S. government said so, and they didn't understand that. They didn't understand the deep layers of international statecraft and deep state and all the manipulations and the controls behind the curtains. And I tried to explain it to them. I try to give them an understanding of how pawn like you know we were back then and we are today. We are the enforcers of a government policy, right or wrong.
Sure.
And if the policy is we go into a country and blow it into the stone age, then that's the policy. That's what we do. Now, I grew up in the Soviet Union days where we wanted to do that so well it made the other side think twice. We call that deterrence. Okay. So mutually assured destruction is a deterrent. Now, how do you deter somebody who has an ideology that of martyrdom? No, no, no. I'm going to do this whether you kill 80 ayatollahs. The 81st is going to carry on because it's an ideology, because their book says so. Okay? So this isn't a political party. It was easy. It's much easier to destroy the Nazi party. That was the easy part. Destroying Nazism is much harder.
Right.
Destroying communists, that's easy. Destroying communism, that's the hard part. And so, how do you get rid of an ideology? Well, you don't get rid of it. I told you peace is not the absence of war. Peace is somebody's boot on your neck. You remember that conversation? And I took you by
Yes.
the neck.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
peace. And so the big dog has to do it. In recorded history, we have the Pax Romana, where the Romans did this, and there were rebellions from time to time. That's human nature. So you have to do this in a way that we put a boot on these people in a way that neuters them, makes them irrelevant, defangs them, takes their claws out, takes their fangs out, makes them, and strategically, that's what I see happening. The puzzling part is the tactics right now.
Sure.
And so for you, um, I'd have been mortified knowing you were in this sandbox. Yet I get the bigger picture, and I know my son was told, he signed on the dotted line, and by golly, I expect him to do his job to the best of his ability and bring his people home. That's
Right.
my expectation. And the only caveat was that's what I would expect of the commander as well. So, and we've had these talks when you were on ROTC with you and your brother. You've got to first learn to follow. Great fellowship grows from great leadership. And when you have great leaders, the followers arrive. and you hope that leader is not going off a cliff,
Right.
right? You're hoping that leader takes you someplace. Well, the world's complicated. So where our leader is taking us right now is someplace 5, 10, 15 years down the road where we're going to be potentially better for it. There's no promise here. Those 7 so far that have passed away, I you know, I don't know. The prayer is this gets resolved, and for decades to come their lives would not have been lost in vain. They would have bought a peace, and we can bring our soldiers, sailors, airmen, marines home from the vast places that they're at right now. But where they're physically located and where they're ideologically located is critical. And this is that abscess that started as a little pain in your tooth, and now it's this big abscess, and now you got to do surgery and you got to yank it out because you didn't take care of it when you should have. And that's what Iran is. Well, we weren't great, perfect either. No, we weren't. You judge that based on the times of that time. And they've been killing our soldiers, sailor, airmen, marines for 47 years. And it should have been fixed 46 years ago, and we failed at it. We wouldn't be having this conversation had we had put the remedy. If war comes, be it now. Because I'm
Right.
here to tell you, this is going to get ugly, and it's going to get uglier later. And it's not my take from it. This is what the Arabs told me. This is what the Arabs are telling Europeans. You lunatics are importing your own problems. You know, why does the UAE not allow these Islamists running around? Uh-uh. Saudi Arabia, they let them run
Heck,
around all other places around the world, but not in
heck,
their house.
Poland said no. What people fail to understand is the whole reason Japan's prime minister, the whole reason she's in, is because that particular population grew to 3%, and they said, nope, that's enough.
They were already getting the stupid case of the stupids, and at 3%.
Yeah, and they said,
And
nope, we're
so,
done. And she's
no, we're
more,
done with you.
yeah, she's more heavy on immigration than I think Trump is. She's like, nope, we're not doing
Oh
this.
yeah, no, you go. No, forced deportations. Everybody go. Everybody go. And we're headed down that road. England's lost. You know, France, Germany,
Oh my gosh.
Denmark.
Did you see the news about Spain going, well, you're not going to use our base, you're not going to utilize your bases on our land if you're going to be doing this to in the Middle East. First off,
Yeah,
try and stop us. And number 2, now I know you're an enemy. That's that's
yeah,
that's my look at it. You're an enemy. I'm sorry.
yeah, yeah. You're and so when the bugle sounds, you got to look to the left and right and see who's with you. So
I
Spain
told
went.
I
England is gone. They told, oh, we don't know. We can send our ship over there to defend you guys. They're not terrorists because in England's the only European country that I know of that has not designated the IRGC as foreign terrorists.
I told a couple of conservatives who just weren't getting the picture. I said Trump needs to, what is it? Article 5 of NATO? I said do that and see who's on our team, and that'll tell you plain as simple.
Yeah, yeah. That when that happened to Turkey, that it's the put up or shut up. Yeah, and that's the power of the bully pulpit. all politics are local, so there's a lot to this. Yeah, I would
Yeah.
love to see, a put up or shut up and find out who your friends are. And that's the thing that people don't understand, that Iran is Shia. They're the Shia brand of the Muslim faith.
They're
And
Shia or
so,
Sunni? I thought maybe
sh-
I'm
no, they're Shiite. And people like Afghanistan and a couple others around them, but they're Sunni. So there's that whole internal thing of fight within them. And so this is why Israel struck Hezbollah in Lebanon, is to tie that group up. They don't want them coming to Iran to defend the IRGC. So all that is, you in the army, you got to fix the enemy, and so you got to post people to, in certain positions to force the enemy to post people in a certain position. You're
sure.
fixing the battlefield, right? So that's that's all that is. And thankfully, Lebanon stepped up and said, "Okay, you're all foreign terrorists, and we're going to hunt you down and kick you out of the country." Now, whether they do it or not, I don't know, but at least they're publicly saying it, which is a
Yeah,
huge step for that little country, a country that was destroyed by allowing this little population of religious zealots create a theocracy. I remember
right.
flying into Beirut, and you can see the red tracers from the Christian side and the Muslim side.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and it was all fun and games, and delivering Domino's pizza and White Castles to the Marines until the nut jobs ran into the Kobe Towers and blew it up.
Oh my.
So again, we're quite sober, real world.
Yeah. Well, it's yeah, it's just a well, first off, it's a mess right now. And two, I just think that the biggest thing right now is just the messaging. The messaging
Yeah,
could be so much better. Would it solve all the bickering? It won't, cuz liberals
no,
are going to be
no.
liberals. But at least it would stop. There's a lot of infighting within the conservative base right now
Hmm.
about this, and I seem to hear a lot of it dealing with just the lack of communication. So hopefully that gets better. Don't know if it's confirmed. I literally saw two posts about it before we got on this evening, that there was another bombing raid in Iran, and the Ayatollah's son might be dead. That's alleged as of this.
I know he
Uh,
was wounded.
yeah, I don't know, but I mean, maybe the strategy is when you finally pick your 200th leader, you'll give up. I don't. I don't know if it's
Yeah,
that at that point.
this is the challenge of fighting ideologues. You know, they're they're always going to they've always been this way.
Right.
And then when they get in charge, they go lunaticville, right? They go lunacyville, and this is what we're going to do. We're going to kill our women for not wearing a burqa, and going out alone, going to the candy store without your chaperone. Well, we're going to shoot you in the village. This stuff. There's there's what 1,300 year history. This is
Mhm.
who they are. I think we ought to take them at their word and say, okay, there's some that get it. UAE, Bahrain, some of the Saudis, some of the Lebanese, some of these groups at Morocco. Hey, yeah, we're not into it. Okay. Um, we're not going to let the Muslim clerics rule the country. And it's a theocracy. And so when the theocratic book says, yeah, kill the infidel, okay, we're going to kill the infidel.
Right.
So nobody should be surprised, but we are, because our wonderful education system doesn't teach that for the last 1,300 years. These are the people that have been this way for 1,300 years. Europe fought these people and kicked them out for a reason. And Spain let them in without firing a shot after fighting several hundred years to kick them out.
Yeah. Yeah, the lunacy, and it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make
Yeah, so
sense at all.
if you're the old saying is you're looking east for a sunset. You're trying to rationalize the irrational. It's it's tough, and you want to make sense of it, and it's good that you want to make sense of it.
Yeah, I know.
Uh that's a little tough there, kiddo. That's what-
Well, I do appreciate you taking the time again to come and
sure.
talk about that.
I love it.
It's yeah, this has been really fun right now. Um, I have some ideas, some things I want to talk to you about next time. Well, I know the news cycle right now is foreign policy, so it just seemed more. It seemed to have made more sense to just talk about that. But I got some
Well,
interesting things that I'm looking into right now that I want to talk
all
to you
right.
about next
Just
time.
yeah, just put them down on paper and call me up, and I'll wax eloquently. I'll give you my 2 cents worth for yeah. We'll see where it
Well,
goes.
I
Appreciate you
will.
asking.
Yeah, no problem. And I will say this to anyone watching, we do support our military, and our hearts go out to those who have lost their lives in this
Breaks our
endeavor,
heart.
and the prayer is that it will not be in vain. So,
God, yeah.
keep the American spirit alive. It is there no matter how much
Mhm.
they tell you that it's not. Um and I think we'll pull through. So, anything else before we take off, Dad?
No, appreciate your questions. They're thoughtful. You're trying to make your understanding of the world, and it's tough. I had these questions back in the 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s. Help me. What is this? And it's the way of the world. So I'll do my best to help you out anytime you got a question. Don't know if I'm right or wrong, but I definitely have an opinion.
Yeah, so we all do. But all right, well, you have a good night, and everybody, make sure you like, subscribe. Please reach out to your parents, like I mentioned last time. Ask
Yep.
them. Dad's here mentioning what he was doing in the service and relating to foreign policy and whatnot. And we're kind of tying this together. So if you have those questions, please let us know. And then if I see a few pop up, maybe next session we get together, we'll answer those. All right.
Yeah, yeah. I'll be if you don't have an old man to ask, I'll be the old fart for you.
All right, Dad. Well, you take care and have a good night.
All right. God bless. Have a great one.